Hey guys, thank you so much for a wonderful season one. For myself and my team, we want to thank everybody, the loyal listeners who stuck around just for this good season that we had. It means a lot, and I've really enjoyed doing this podcast. And we're going to continue, obviously, season two coming around the corner. So, with that being said, I only have one plug for today. And as a Dominican, I'm a huge fan of plantain chips. I wanted to go ahead and plug one of my favorite plantain chips that I eat, which is from Royal Flavors. You could find them on royalflavors.org, or they also have on Instagram, royalflavors.chips with a Z. That's royalflavors.chips with a Z. So with that being said, let's start the show. Season one finale. I'm Luis Agustin, and this is A View to Film. Welcome back to A View to Film. On the season finale, we finally are wrapping up here, my last episode, and I got a very special guest all the way from Iowa, a former colleague of mine, Mr. Josh Begg. Josh, what's up, man?
Lou, hey guys, thanks for telling me this was the season finale. Now I got a little extra pressure on me, huh?
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're wrapping up season one of A View to Film. Yeah, this is the last movie I'm covering. Gonna go a little hiatus, and we're gonna plot some stuff for season two. And thank you for coming. And I definitely want you to come back. So we spoke, me and you, a little bit off screen, like about some other potential movies. So don't worry, you'll get a definitely callback, guaranteed, promise. Even before you give me bad material.
All right, yes, I like that. I'll make it easy. I'll make it easy for everybody else that follows here. They got small shoes to fill. Then.
I love it, man. I love it. Nah, man, you're one of the top dogs, bro. How's Iowa treating you out there?
Gee, it's all right. We just experienced our first ever land hurricane a couple weeks ago, which. Yeah, I didn't even know they existed until I was in the middle of 130-mile-an-hour winds. So it was definitely like being back in Sandy all over again, but with corn flying around.
Yeah. That's crazy because we went through that with the first hurricane that just hit us, and everybody said that it was just like Sandy. It's true, bro. You should have seen it. Like, I was in one of the stores, and bro, the power went out. Like, the power went out all over the place. I had vice presidents in our company trying to get generators for their house. Like, it was nuts out here, man.
Yeah, no, they're no joke. They're not to be taken lightly, that's for sure.
I know, bro. Before we start our episode, anything you want to plug? Anything you want to give a shout out to?
No, just all my my ex-Enterprise people. I hope they're hanging in there through this pandemic that we're in and keeping their heads up. I know it seems pretty tough right now, but everything's got to come back up eventually, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's what's up. What movie are we talking about today, Josh?
Today we are not watching. We already watched it. We are talking about the movie Blow with Johnny Depp and Penelope Cruz.
Nice. In your own words, give a quick synopsis. What is Blow about? You already named who's in it, so quickly, what's it about?
Yeah, it's a true story. It's about a guy named George Jung, and he was pretty much the pioneer of the drug trade in the United States in terms of trafficking it and bringing it in larger quantities. So it's really just kind of a story about his rise to fame and success, and then the inevitable downfall that comes along with drugs and living in the drug world.
Yes, that is true. That I couldn't have put it better myself. That is a great synopsis. Real quick, I want to issue a spoiler warning for anybody listening because we're going to spoil this movie, but it is based on a true story. So this really did happen. But let's just jump right into it. I have a quick question for you before we even get into the movie plot. Have you ever seen the movie American Made?
Who's in that one? It sounds familiar, but I don't know if I have or not.
It's the one with Tom Cruise that he's also a pilot smuggling in drugs because I feel like they remade this movie based on Blow.
Yeah, that was always one of those that I was like, oh, I got to see that. But never had time to go to a movie theater, and it was always just kind of that, oh well, I'll catch it when it comes out on DVD or Amazon or whatever, and I just kind of forgot all about it. But yeah, I did want to see that one.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say. I just want to give a quick shout out to American Made that they copy pretty much the essence of this movie.
Oh,
Like
really?
he's a pilot, smuggling in drugs, gets involved with a cartel. It's literally so eerily similar, you know?
All right.
Yeah. But yeah, no, let's kick it off. So we start the movie. We're getting to know George Jung. So is it George Jung or Jung?
I've heard it say both ways. I've always just called it Young, Young, but it could be Jung. It is spelled like Jung, right? So,
Right,
um,
right.
I guess I should probably watch the movie again and pay more attention to it when he's introducing himself. But
No, I think you're right though. I think everybody in the movie, so one person said it one way, another person said it another way.
sure, yeah.
So we meet his dad, like we meet his family, like we get a sense for how he was growing up because
Mhm.
it is based on his true life. So
Yeah.
we see how everything is evolving and everything. And like the first thing I spotted as we're going through the movie was the Ray Liotta character, like put his employees on check. Did you notice that on the first
Yeah.
scene? Like, I'll talk to my boy as long as I want. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, he's like, hey man, what's your problem today? Guess who's buying lunch? So, it was. I mean, you get a real good view of the George's father and like kind of his. It's kind of just like the laying foundation for him the rest of the movie. You know that hey, you're not going to mess with my kid. He comes first kind of thought right there.
But you're a father yourself. Like, how did you feel about that? How did that resonate to you?
I felt the same way. You see me talking to my kid, like, what are you in such a hurry for? You know, it's you're there, man. You're on the job truck. I would assume you're probably getting paid. So what do you care if I'm taking an extra minute or two? So,
Right.
I think the guy was just being a jerk. So he had to get checked.
So for the people who've seen this movie, like it has that reputation of showing the mom in a very negative light, right?
Yeah.
So I've seen this movie. Yeah, I've seen this movie multiple times. And I guess I never really noticed, but the first thing I just wanted to point out was that I found it interesting how the mom had the role of the typical father where she kept leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Like where we usually will see the dad, like the deadbeat dad who leaves and then he comes back, or like he's never quite sure. Like
Yeah.
what was that like seeing this movie portray the mom in that role? Like I've never really seen that much.
Yeah, I didn't take a whole lot of it, and you almost just become numb to that thought process or that visual of deadbeat dad, or if you think of single parent, you automatically think, oh well, they must be living with their moms and their dad's gone, and
Right.
it's kind of eye opening. I think it's kind of a gender switch from like the norm in most movies, or even I think statistically probably in America as a whole. But it kind of again brings light to it. It's like this happens. Like there's no way that she's the only absentee mom, and there are probably families out there that are going through that kind of thing.
Right. So then I guess, yeah. So I guess that's like what my question is. Like, why is the deadbeat dad more portrayed in film versus the deadbeat mom? I can call her a deadbeat mom now.
Yeah.
I guess, right?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those nasty kind of stereotypes that that we deal with all the time. In a bunch of different aspects of our life. It's unfortunately one or two bad eggs. You kind of just encompasses and then groups everybody around in that same kind of thing. And I think it's very easy to, hey, if they're separated, it's the dad's fault, and which may not be the case in some circumstances. So it's just one of those stereotypes that I think we as Americans just love to cling on to,
That's right.
and also just kind of like magnify whenever possible.
All right. Well, I don't want to talk too much about her now. We'll get more into her later as the movie goes along. But so we meet his boy Tuna,
Yep.
which he eventually moved out with. Like the story moved pretty quickly.
Which, by the way, have you seen that guy now? That actor?
Yeah, he's slim, right? He's super slim, no?
He's yoked, dude. He lost like 200 some pounds and he's like ripped.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, look him up.
No. I know he lost a lot of weight, but I didn't know he got like really like built. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I gotta look it up.
Definitely.
Yeah, I gotta watch another movie of his or like what's he in? Like is he in a show or something?
I don't know. I just saw some like men's fitness article on him. So
No way.
yeah, apparently
Okay.
he got big.
Okay, hey, that's what's up, man. It's like, you know what, like when Jonah Hill lost a lot of weight, everybody just started talking crap. But you're like, hey, man, they're just trying to better themselves, you know?
That's I hear you. You almost can't take him serious now though. But
Well, so then why was he called Tuna again in the movie? I never caught that.
I think that was just his nickname. I mean, you would think with the guy that size, Tuna would not be the name you'd call him, but um, no, that part slipped me. I just know he's been best friends with him since he was a Rugrat. So, he kind of was his right hand man. At least for the beginning part of the whole story.
So I took the time to Google this because Johnny Depp has always been one of my favorite actors when I was growing up. I didn't know because he's always come off like an LA vibe kind of guy, like he's eccentric and unique. And then I Googled it and I didn't know he was born in Kentucky, raised in Florida. Like,
Yeah.
what did you think about that? And what did you think about Johnny Depp with blonde hair in this movie? Because I've rarely seen that as well.
I think I had heard I knew he was from like the southern state, and I knew he kind of had some pretty humble beginnings. Um, I to be honest with you, I think between besides like the Pirates of the Caribbean and some of those other ones, I think this was one of the movies that kind of first put me on like serious to Johnny, like where I was like, oh, so he's not just some pirate.
I was gonna say not Edward Scissorhands, or you mean
Yeah,
just like in general, like a character,
yeah, but
right?
like Edward Scissorhands, I feel like that was like one of those movies that like my mom made me watch. So I walked into it like half into it.
In Christmas time.
Yeah, so it's just kind of. I mean, it's a great movie. Don't get me wrong, but like when I first watched it, I wasn't into it. I wasn't quite sure what the hell was going on, to be honest. But this is one of those movies that I think that put me on or made me like be like, whoa, this guy's actually good. And then go to some of his other movies and you realize that he's been around for a long time. So the blonde hair didn't really throw me off. I remember I always thought it was kind of cool that like the ponytail, he was with the jean jacket that he rocks. Like I was just like, this guy's kind of badass.
I know. I'm telling you. So wifey and I, we sat down to rewatch the movie, and I'm telling you right now, I love Johnny Depp as a blonde. Like I think he pulled it off. I know it's not what his hair color was, but I think he did look pretty handsome.
Yeah, I think he made it work.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So remind me, have you always been from Iowa, or did you live on the coast?
I did. So I grew up the beginning part out in Southern California, and then spent the high school, college years in Iowa, and then my stint in New York, and then now I'm back here.
So that Cali beach life, like, what's that like? Because we see that early in the movie. Like, what do you think about that? Would you go back there? Like,
oh, 100%.
How did they portray it? Yeah.
I think they did. I mean, when I was out there, I'm sure there was the pot was being smoked and all that, but
Right.
I mean, I was young enough where I wasn't really paying a whole lot of attention to any of that. But in terms of like the how they portray it, people just lounging, chilling on the beach. It very much that laid back lifestyle. Especially like on the boardwalk in the beach area, like they portrayed.
Right.
You get into like downtown LA and stuff and it changes, but no, I think that I would go back to Cali in a second. My girl, she doesn't like the heat, so good luck talking her into that.
Same.
Yeah. So I can't. I don't think I'll ever get back out there, but maybe I'll get her out there one day to visit and she'll fall in love. But it's a beautiful place.
She will, man. She will. And I can say I visited LA and San Diego once.
Yeah.
And I drove down the coast, and I'm telling you, man, I fell in love. Like San Diego, bro. Oh
yeah.
My God. It was
there's not beautiful. A whole lot more places in the world that's better, like weather wise and all that. I mean, money wise, you can find cheaper places, but you get what you pay for down there for sure.
Right. So bringing it back to the movie. So early on, so they move out, right? They move out to Cali. They start their life. Him and Tuna are on the road. He meets Barbie, and they're hitting it off, right? So we get to the part where he's considering like just selling pot, right?
Yep.
And Barbie puts him on to Derek for real.
Yep.
So how come Derek didn't just like sell it himself and just earn his own profit? Why did he decide to give it to him wholesale? Like that stumbled me like in the beginning.
Yeah, and the part that I caught that I hadn't caught before that was interesting is that this whole empire started because George and Tuna they didn't want to get a real job. They were just being lazy. They just wanted to kick it on the beach all day.
Right.
Derek, he was a hairstylist, and so I don't think he ever took it as like a business opportunity or more than he did as like kind of a social or kind of almost like a barber
Like a
treat.
hangout.
Yeah, so like you come and get your hair done. And, hey, here's a joint. Like, come kick it with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think I don't think Derek ever really had the vision of making it into a business. Whereas George was like, hey, I want to do this to make my money off of. So I think Derek eventually kind of turned more into the running part, but I think for him it was always just kind of a kick it. Hey, come to my salon or barbershop because I'll get you high while I'm cutting your hair.
Right. Yeah. It's like a Dominican barbershop up here in New York, right? Like
word.
you go in, they hand you a beer. It's kind of like
Yeah.
the welcoming, like it's part of the culture.
Sure, and the ones that hand out the nutties, you're going there first. So tell me I'm wrong.
No. For the listeners, he means the nutcrackers, like the concoction of like all these spirits together. That yes, they do hand that out as well. That's hilarious, man. But yeah, you're right. I agree. I don't think Derek had that vision, and I guess George just kind of like woke him up to it that there is a business side to it. So then so then I hate to go down a rabbit hole, but then like where was Derek getting his product from? Like, all right, so you're buying it. Where are you getting this wholesale from?
Yeah, I don't get it. They didn't really dive into that, but even in that one scene when he throws like that pound of weed at him, he goes, I don't nickel and dime. So
right.
I mean, he was obviously pulling weight somewhere or do some kind of connect. So I don't know.
So we get into the part where he meets the other guy. I forgot the other guy's name that he wants it back east, like one of their old friends, right?
Yep.
So, and his girl Barbie is a stewardess. How nice was that back then? Yeah, to like fly and they don't check a thing. Can you even imagine what life was like back then when you were growing up like that?
I mean, no. I mean, think about like pre 9/11 even. I would have never thought about taking my shoes off when I'm going through security, but then now, I can't imagine not doing it. So I think, back then, and I think that's what benefited George so much is that he was so groundbreaking that people didn't think that marijuana went across the country or traveled or it's just one of those things that out of sight, out of mind. It's here. It must have grown here, kind of thing. So, they definitely portrayed how lax the security systems were for sure.
For sure, man. For sure. So let's so we're gonna bring it back around to the mom again, right?
All right.
So finally, so in the movie, they start making enough money. They're well off, right? And he introduces Barbie to his mom again.
Yeah.
So I was already like, all right, here's the gold digger alert. Right. The mom spots the 2-carat diamond ring. And then she's saying, hey, get it insured. And then is embarrassed. Yeah. And then embarrassed when the father has no money. Like, bro, what are these red flags with this mom in this movie, man?
Yeah, this mom, she is like the definition of like a fair weather mom. It's like, hey, when the bread is in, like I'm around, I'm going to be here. But hey, when you're broke, you're just, you're junk. Like I'm going to go find money somewhere else. So she is definitely like a bandwagon mom. She is there when it's good, and when it's bad, she doesn't want anything she doesn't want to be even associated with you.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not a fan of the mom. That's for sure.
I'm agreeing with you, man. I think, I guess like I could like rant a little bit about it now, but it's like it's so tough when like we grow up or we have someone who's caring for us like that you have that motherly figure, and for her to be just so dismissive, But real quick, so like let me wrap it in. So we basically see, right, that Barbie, she gets cancer. Unfortunately, she passes away from George's life, right?
Yep.
How did you think that this affected George?
I think I think to me the way I kind of took it is that's kind of where George got to the point where life isn't forever, life is short, and I think you after Barbie dies, you really start seeing George starting to really ramp up the business, really start taking those risks. He
Right.
goes to jail and he learns about like new product. But before it was always just he's driving across country. Now you're starting to talk about different countries and planes and different
Hmm.
stuff. So the way I kind of took it was, hey man, no one lives forever, and you might as well go big or go home. So I think that's kind of where the turning point where you see George kind of take it to an international level.
What do you, how would you think his life would have been different if Barbie didn't pass away?
I think he might have just been a Manhattan Beach pot dealer. He may have dabbled a little bit, but he even has that one line. They were young, they were rich, and they were in love, and it was like where he had everything that he wanted at that point. So I don't think he would have taken that next step if he felt like he had fulfilled himself.
So then he tries to hide out, right? He takes
Yep.
care of Barbie till she passes away. He, skips out on bail. He goes back to his parents' house. Obviously, something comforting, something that is very what's the word I'm looking for? Something that he knows, right?
Right.
And his mom snitches him out. Your thoughts on the mom's immediately like he didn't even sleep, this poor guy on the
Yeah.
run, and his mom snitched him out to the cops. How do you feel about that?
I mean, if that was my mother, she would have been dead to me. Like I would have never ever spoke to her, and she would never ever have seen me ever again. I
Right.
just think it's one of those things. It's your kid, and you protect your kids at all costs, no matter what it is or how right or wrong they are. I mean, you hear about these terrible school shootings, and the parents they don't condone or they don't approve of what the kid's doing, but at the end of the day, that's still their baby, and so for
Right.
her to snitch on him and rat him out, knowing that he was going to prison, to me that's just unforgivable.
Do you think that the mom's gold digging habits affected his decision making? Because I noticed like that by her setting that precedent at the beginning of the movie where she just cares about money, it kind of like subconsciously pushed George to continue to strive for getting more money, even when you thought it was enough. Like Homeboy was bringing in like 300,000, like
Yeah,
125,000, like easy, just on selling pot.
yeah.
And I think that those things affected him. Like, you know what I mean?
I think you're 100% right. I think there's even that one scene, when his dad's like taking out extra money from the bank, and he's like, at that point, I made a decision that I was never gonna be poor. His mom
Right.
really kind of planted that in his head that you're only happy if you're rich or if you got money, and when you don't have money, then you're not worth anything.
Right. So I'm glad you brought that up because, like, let's piggyback on that. So I wanted to share with you first one of my favorite quotes of the movie, which was in that scene at the very beginning when the dad says, like, "Hey, money doesn't matter, even though it seemed like it does."
Yep.
And I feel like that goes back to his dad's philosophy, like that he was ahead of his time. That hey, what matters is family, and like that really stayed with me in the film. The fact that his dad was the one who just family above all. Money doesn't mean what you think it means.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you have one parent giving you one philosophy and a parent and another parent give you another philosophy, like that clashed.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny you said that because that was one of the favorite quotes that I had. And I think when I heard it again, especially even like the times that we're in right now, when he's like, sometimes you're flush and sometimes you're bust. And, when it's
Yeah.
good, it doesn't seem as good as it is. And when you're down, you never think you're going to get out of it. So I think, his dad is a real solid figure. And it's just too bad, that his mom couldn't portray some of that too. And then he would have had to, go down the path that he did maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even like between us, like even if he does, I think that with full parental support, maybe he just stays low key. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
I think that's where you have that with that divide. It kind of pushed him, like I said.
Absolutely.
Cool. So we get to him meeting Diego in the prison. What were your first thoughts about Diego when you first saw this movie ever?
You get kind of mixed reactions with this guy. He in that jail cell when George lies to him and tells him he's in there for murder. Like the dude
Right,
looks
right.
terrified. That he's like rooming with a murderer. And then you see him with like the books, and you kind of get like, oh, he's like an analytical kind of guy. And that obviously changes throughout the movie. So I always just kind of thought he was going to be the wingman all the way through. He just kind of seemed like he was more of a backseat kind of guy. that just kind of was like showing the way.
Why do you think George lied to him from the very beginning when he was in jail?
That's a good question. I don't know, because there's maybe he was ashamed that's why he was in there, because he got caught doing something that wasn't at that time. There probably weren't a whole lot of guys in there for drugs,
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know if during that time maybe there was a stigma to that kind of record, but or maybe he just wanted to seem hard so no one fucked with him.
Yeah.
I kill people, so don't come after me.
That's true. I agree with that. I think that's what it was.
I think so too.
So your boy George finally gets out of prison, meets up with Diego to try to set everything up. So as much as I hate some other characters, and we're going to judge that in a little bit, right? Later down the road, right?
Yeah.
When I first saw this movie, I hated Caesar, bro. Like,
Yes.
understand? Like his smugness, like the way that actor portrayed him on screen. I was like, oh my God, shoot this dude right now.
Yes. I never got on the Caesar fan train for sure.
Believe it or not, on like my 10th rewatch, right? I kind of warmed up to him because I thought about it this way. I'm like, wait a second, like I don't blame him for being as mean and cutthroat as he is, because this is his product, and this is, he deserves to know the entire plan, especially, how everything works, because if anything goes wrong, then he's just going to be out on money. They're not taking the risk that he is, because he's putting up the coke and the product. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just like, he's just super thorough. I mean, even down to whose clothes is going to be in there. And, George kind of jokes with them, like, well, what does it matter? And then you see when he goes through the customs, they pull out the lady panties. It's like,
right.
See, he was right. Like, you should probably know what's in there. He's very cocky. He's very schmug. He gets his, but I guess if I was putting millions of dollars in the hands of a complete stranger, I'd probably want to know everything about him too.
I agree. So once again, right, George is faced with another dilemma. He's making, literally in one scene, he's making $500,000 just per transaction, just to be a middleman. And it's like, bro, if I was George's boy, I would have been like, bro, like, you can't, like, can you put the male pride aside? Like, why are you trying to just have an entire operation? Why can't you just collect your money and go home?
Yeah, I would have been cool with $500K just to introduce a pilot to somebody. So I think it's just that greed thing. You always want more than what you got.
Yeah, that's true. Do you think that's what George's character flaw was during the movie? Now that I think about it,
I think so. I think that, and I think just the almost the trusting a little too much. I think, but I think there's always just that I think he trusted too much. He wanted. I think the theme is it was just too much. He always wanted just that one more thing, and I feel like with all crime, you always get caught when you go back for that one last hurrah or whatever. So, I think so.
It's like, like those degenerate gamblers, right? Like there's like, oh, like one more, I'm going to hit it on the next one. I'm going to hit it on the next one. Like one of those things, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So here's decision time, right? For you. Diego calls, right? We're in the middle of the movie. He's already like, I'm iffy on Diego, right?
Right.
He's locked up in Colombia. Like, are you getting him out or not? Like, what's your decision there?
So at that point, I'm gonna try to help out my boy. That's when that scene directly after he goes, hey, you're gonna have to do this on your own. I'm in prison. I need you to go pick something up for me. To me, that kind of seemed like Diego sent his ass into a trap.
Yes.
Like, Lou, you send me down to Miami when I'm on parole and I end up with a gun in my mouth. I'm probably not fucking with you anymore.
Hey, I do. That's what you took the words right out of my mouth. No pun intended. But it's true. It's like, bro, wait a second. You send me to a death trap, right? You said like it kind of reminded me of that Scarface scene when he has to go pick up that. Yeah, like, he has to go pick up the product and he gets ambushed in that hotel. It's the same thing. You send me on a Scarface situation. I get ambushed. And you really expect me to vouch for you? So, like, we get to him meeting Pablo, and still Pablo straight up, yo, this your boy? I would have been like, nah, man, he ain't my boy. Take care of him.
Yeah, and he even tried. Pablo, the most successful, well-known, drug trafficker, is warning you about this guy now, and that you now have evidence of, just from a little bit of time before that. Like, I may have, been like, hey, you're on your own, man.
Exactly. Like, I don't know, bro. Like, that's one thing. It's like, yo, we're boys, but man, like, you got to be kidding me right now.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, the 9mm in the mouth, I'm done.
Yeah, I agree with you. 9mm in the mouth, that should be like a male staple. Like, you get a 9mm in the mouth, we're done.
You got to reassess your friends at that point.
Oh man. Random question for you. Diego's wedding. What did you think about it? Would you have gotten an invite? What do you think? It looked like a great time.
Would I have gotten the invite? Man, I would have been the token white guy. It's crazy though, because like in that scene particular, George is the only white guy in a room full of Colombians, and I cannot tell you how many times that I have been with like at my girl's family events and felt just like he did. Just being like that one guy sitting there, but at the same time fitting right in with everybody. So it's a scene. I don't know if I would have gotten invited to that particular one, but I think I
no,
but, invited.
But exactly. But going off your experience, you would have been like, yo, this is a great time, man. Like,
I'd have gone. If I got an invite, I wouldn't even think twice. I'd be there.
That's what's up. Real quick before we continue, like breaking down the movie, I wanted to pivot again and talk about favorite scenes because mine's just passed, right?
Yep.
So real quick, my favorite scene of the whole movie is the intro of Pablo. Like,
okay,
when this dude comes in, right? They pop the dude execution style, and then here you go. You meet Pablo. You get the intimidation factor at 1,000, and like when the guy comes on screen, and like credit to the actor, like I love how they built it up. When you're young. And like when I remember first seeing this when I was in junior high school, I'm like, whoa, like who is this dude? Who is this Pablo Escobar? Like this is how I feel like I learned about who Pablo Escobar was because of this movie when I was young. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that was, because when Pablo was big, we were just young. We were too young to really know what was going on.
Right.
Yeah, I think this was kind of like that. Oh, who is this guy? And then the days of encyclopedias and Wikipedias and whatnot just started rabbit holing down, and that was a great scene. I think they did a wonderful job there.
And then back in the day, you had like Ask Jeeves or trying to find out like any information you can, and it kind of like I think this movie really built up that for at least for me, like in the American culture, the mythos of Pablo Escobar, because I didn't know like much about the guy, and then you see this movie and he's like, oh crap, this guy's ruthless.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite scene in the whole film, bro?
My favorite scene's a little bit further down. It's when George is married with Penelope, and she's giving birth, right? And I got a lot of good scenes, but this is one that I just
go ahead, jump in. Jump in.
So there's this scene, George's wife is going into labor. You can hear her off the camera screaming at him, "We gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go." George is blown out of his mind. He is just higher than a kite, and he's frantically trying to pack. Hey, I've been in the situation when a kid's on the way. Packing, good idea. But if you pay attention to what this guy is frantically throwing into his luggage is like random underwear. He's throwing in a hair dryer. He grabs a bag that looks like a bowling ball should belong in it, but it's full of cocaine. That has like random keys in it. And then all of a sudden he takes another line and he's just like, on my way. And then they go, and then of course, he's tweaked out in the operating room. But I just thought that I was like, yeah, dude, your firstborn is coming, and you think that the essential need is to throw a hairdryer in your to-go bag.
That was fantastic.
That was one of my scenes where I was just like, yo, drugs. It's a hell of a drug, huh?
In that scene, that's when they also talk about that he snorted 10 grams in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I guess I had a high tolerance.
Yo, doesn't the hospital have to report him to the cops? Like,
I don't know. That doctor gave him some like life advice, like slow down, and he's just like, all right.
I'm sorry, but it's true. I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, bro, what was he packing?
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, pay attention, slow down that scene in particular. And he's throwing the craziest shit in this suitcase that I can only imagine, like getting there and waking up and being like, "Hey, did you bring me a change of underwear?" He goes, "No, but I got a hairdryer." Like, what are you gonna do with that?
I got a bowling ball. I don't know how that got it.
Jesus, that was good.
What's your other favorite scene in the movie?
You know, I also like it. You know, when he goes and confronts Diego at the at his island. You know, I think
my man, he betrayed him. Oh, I can't stop laughing.
Yeah,
he betrays him and he buys an island. He doesn't even buy like a mansion.
No.
He buys an entire island.
An island. And then George thinks it's a good idea to go and confront this dude where he's got like a small army there. And you know, and then Diego, you know, he's coked out. I thought the actor did a great job of portraying that,
yes.
you know.
Yes. Jordy. That's the actor.
Yeah. I think he did a fantastic job just like showing how like strung out he was, and you could kind of see it in his face, like how he almost felt bad because I think he really did consider George his brother, you know.
Right.
And then, you know, Caesar makes an appearance again. And then I thought that was a pretty good scene. You know, it was just, again, another person, you know, letting George down, which I think is a reoccurring thing in his life.
That's true. Like that he hits. I wrote it down as that like he has different levels to his like bottom, like rock bottom, as quote The Rock. He has different levels of the rock bottom that he hits.
Yep.
And like, every time he's like always like let down, you know?
Yeah, he just gets a whole nother level.
I did want to shout out that actor, like you just said. You know, I noticed like what he did with his eyes.
Yes.
It was insane because the whole time I was looking at that scene when he's talking to George, I'm just staring at his eyes. Whatever he did with that was fantastic. I'm like, yo, he's like making him dilute and like you can. Like, it looks like he's really on something. I mean, when I did the research, I Googled and I found out that they were snorting milk powder.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Yeah, to pretend that it was cocaine. So obviously they weren't doing like drugs or anything like that. But this guy was like,
he looked like
really giving a hell of a performance.
Yeah, I thought so too, and even just like his mannerisms and like when he finally George is like dragged out, you know, he's just a bye. You know, it's like he's trying to make it real in his head because he's so tweaked out. So I just thought he did a phenomenal job, especially in that particular scene.
So, do you have any other favorite scenes by any chance?
You know, that one is the big one, the packing it up, and then you know at the very end of the movie, you know when he's recording that message to his pops, and he's just trying to talking about like all this stuff. I thought that was just kind of a good way to wrap it all up or to say goodbye to his dad when he couldn't be there. You know, just kind of talking about like the stories about you know how his dad always had his back, even when you know his mom snitched him out. And he told the cops, "That's right. That's where you belong, you son of a bitch." Putting on Georgie's boots. So like the dad, no matter what George did, he had his back. And I think in that scene, you know, George shows that he noticed that or that he appreciated that throughout his life.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that because it was one thing that I wrote down. It's like why I really love this movie, why I come back to it, was the father-son relationship between George and Fred. Like, Depp and Ray Liotta like really brought that convincing relationship on screen.
Yeah,
it kind of reminds me of the great relationship that I have with my dad. That like you can see that there's genuine care, that they always remember the little things, you know, about each other, and that like they always quote each other. That goes to show you, like he undoubtedly had his support 1,000%. That no matter what George did in his life, like his dad was always there for him, and I thought that was like the saving grace in the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. So I wrote down quickly, like, George's rock bottoms, right?
Yeah.
The first one. So obviously, like you said, on that scene, so he gave up his connect. Diego plays him like crazy, but he still made millions of dollars. Like, that was his first rock bottom. Like, all right, you're out the business. Like, why not just try to stay humble? Like, why bring up that party or why even have drugs around you? What do you think about that?
I think, his daughter became his life, and I think he was checked out of the game. But I think, George is always, somebody, he's a pleaser, he's trying to make people happy. And I think his wife was getting bored. She was used to that kind of Colombian, drug trafficking, high, fast paced lifestyle. And now, the guy she married, who, was, the top dog, is now a fat dad, who just sits around and doesn't drink, party, doesn't do anything. So,
Right.
I think he gave in, to make his wife happy, and it came back and bit him in the ass, and he had to pay for it. And like he kind of says, it wasn't that he got busted; it was that he let his daughter down. He wasn't there for his daughter.
So then, but then that brings me to my next question. So he hits another rock bottom again. The FBI raid his house. He sees them taking his daughter away. Like, what, you didn't, like, you couldn't learn or you couldn't lean on that. Like, you had to have all this coke and all these guests along, even just to please her.
Yeah, I think that's where, I don't know. I think, you could probably tie it back to, his mom, and seeing the relationship like that, how his mom hated his dad, and, he didn't want his wife to hate him. And,
Right.
I think it was just one of those things that, you never think you're going to get caught till you do. And who would have thought, when this guy's traveling around the world with, millions of pounds of cocaine, and you're like that, someone would raid his, private mansion. So, hindsight's 2020, so I'm sure he was probably thinking that a couple times in his life.
Yeah, that's true. Here's a random question before we continue on George's rock bottoms. Depp and Penelope in this movie. What do you think about their relationship, like on screen? I also have another couple for you to compare them to.
I thought, it was toxic. I think, I think it started as that forbidden. I think her being with Caesar was kind of a piece for George. To take him and basically brag like, I'm untouchable. I'll do whatever I want. I think it also, kind of like he mentioned, by marrying into a Colombian family, it kind of legitimized him a little bit. So, I think it was kind of toxic. I think she was just in it for the bling, and it was almost like, his mother. She loved it when the parties were going and the money was flowing in, and when they lived a residential life, it was boring and she wasn't happy. So. It probably was not the best. It was definitely no Barbie and George situation.
That's true. I miss Barbie already.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask. So, what do you think about Pacino and Pfeiffer and Scarface? Like, did that give you any resonance to like that kind of relationship? What do you think about that?
Now that you say it does. And I think if there's one thing that you could take away, like let's leave drugs out of relationships. I think, especially cocaine. I think it turns people a little loony, and it never ends well for the relationship.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned it. So George takes Caesar's wife, right, or his fiance, because they say that in the movie. Bro, you take a drug lord's lady away. Like, he was that big. He was getting whacked for sure if this was another dude, right?
Oh, for sure. I think if he didn't have Pablo's blessing, if he wasn't Pablo's guy, if he would have been anybody else's guy, he would get clipped for sure.
Yeah, man, that's crazy, man. So going back in it, so here's the next rock bottom that I have. So his wife goes, so he gets out, right? Like, he's once again on the run again, doing the same stuff, posted bail. His wife goes buck wild on the road. He gets caught again.
Yeah.
And like, she snitches on him. Like, he has coke. He's a fugitive. Like, bro, like, again? Like, what's going on right now?
I mean, he's clearly got terrible taste in women. I mean, his own mother snitches on him. Now his wife is snitching on him. Like, I mean, the dude can't catch a break in that field. It feels like.
Whose words are more painful? His daughter when she saw him in jail, his wife when she just didn't want nothing to do with him, or his mom when she was like, "You're not my son anymore."
I think they all have a different level. For me, because I am a father, I would never want to hear my son say that to me. That would,
Right.
having your mother say that to you, obviously that would break your heart. The wife, as far as I'm concerned, you just put me in jail. Like, you can go to hell.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
But like, it's got to be kind of a toss up. I think I'd have to lean with my kid, because I clearly fucked up. What did I do that was so terrible that my little 10-year-old daughter, doesn't even
Right.
want to talk to me. So I think that to me would sting the hardest.
So I guess it goes back to what I was trying to say is like, so he hits all these rock bottoms, which we have one more, right? Leading up to the finale.
Yeah.
But, like you already, after your first fall, you have a kid and you could talk about this. Like, why wouldn't something like fundamentally change when you're caring about somebody else's life? Like his wife, you just said it, like, hey, well, it is what it is, there's other relationships, but now that you are a father, like, why, I guess, what is it that George couldn't stop himself even with having those stakes on the line?
I think it's I think it's kind of it's the unfortunate truth. One, it's all he's ever known. If you go all the way back to the beginning, he's never done any job besides sell drugs.
That's
so
true.
it's what he knows, and then with his money being gone and without income coming in, I think people resort back to what they're comfortable with or what they're good at. And then you also got to think about, you could have gone and got a 9-to-5 job, which I think is a problem in today's world. But I can go make 15 grand in 3 hours standing on the corner, or I can make that much working at McDonald's maybe in a year. So the money is attractive, and I think if that's the only thing you ever known, and that's the thing that you're good at, then that's what you revert back to. And I think towards the end here, especially with George, I mean, like, who would have thought you'd get clipped that many times? Like, who's that bad? So I think it was I think he, they always say I was doing it for my daughter, and I think in George's case he really was. I think that's all he knew, and I think that he just needed to get that one last payday, and he couldn't wait to do it the right way.
Here's a random question, and I've seen this movie multiple times, but I never quite understood. Did you think that Derek set him up in his party? Like, how did the FBI just raid the house in that party? Or like, you think they just randomly were there?
I think they were randomly. I think they started catching on. I think he, even though he had been out of the game, Diego was still making waves. I think depending on the time, Pablo was still making waves. So I think he wasn't too far removed from the game. Whereas when all of a sudden you see 30 Colombians fly in for vacation on the same day and they're all going to the same place, I would probably knock on that door. So I don't know if anyone set him up, as more if it was just like a dude, you're flashing it in our face kind of thing.
I agree. So he hits his final rock bottom, poor guy, in the movie, right?
Yep.
Which he really does get set up, right?
Yeah.
He really didn't see that one coming after everything that he's been through, like all the stuff, like everything that's happened to him.
I don't know. I think, again, it's his loved ones, the people he cared about, that let him down. It was Derek, and it was, the redheaded dude that used to be his connection. You never want to think that your family members or your closest friends would be the ones that, stab you in the back. So, I'm sure he was probably nervous. But then when he met that crew and he saw that, hey, it was his buddy, I think
a familiar face.
Familiar face. He went back to what he knew and what he was comfortable with, and unfortunately for George, everything he knows and is comfortable with ends up biting him in the ass. So, I think if he were to do it again, he'd probably just burn all the bridges and just do it himself.
Right. Is this the reason why we like this movie so much? Because they build them up, but then like we see him on the second half of the movie crashing. Like he just doesn't stop.
I think so, and it's just one of those things where you just want to be like, my man, like, come on, like, like, like that definition of like insane is like doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Like,
yes,
homeboy is banging his head into a cylinder wall, and it's just not. working, but I think, he had that touch of success and he had that touch of glory. And I think was that whole second half of the movie, he was just trying to get back to that phase of his life.
Here are the two most important questions of the movie, besides his daughter's relationship, because that's truly telling. Which one did you find it to be worse after, like, you really found out that Derek was the one who manipulated the betrayal, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are your two best mates, right? Your two best friends that you grew up with. We saw each version, right? One he met in jail, one he grew up with in California. Like, which one hurt the most from you? Which betrayal? The Diego betrayal or the Derek betrayal?
I think for me, the Derek one hurt a little bit more. I think, you found Derek, you built a relationship, you built a friendship. I mean, you vacationed to Mexico with them. They were almost a family. Diego, he was your cellmate. I mean, he's clearly a sketchy person. He's in prison.
Yeah.
And then now he's running circles with drug traffickers and all that kind of stuff. So I think for me, like, Diego called them brothers all the time, but to me, Derek and him were more brothers. They started from selling nickel bags to, moving kilos of cocaine together. So for him to snitch him out, especially when George, has taken the heat for other people so many times, for him to do it just to save his own ass and not even think twice about it, that would hurt.
I agree with you, man. I think that, throughout the whole movie, he really built that strong relationship with Derek. And, like, it's a shame that, it came down to that. Like, Diego, you expected it. You had the foreshadows there, especially when you knew, you're like, George, don't give up your connect. But when you found that it was Derek at the end, I was like, wow, bro.
Yeah, and I mean, even George not telling Diego the entire time, like, who his connect was, you kind of had that feeling that George didn't fully trust him anyways.
Yeah.
But, Derek, he always did. And when he found out that Diego was down in the island, I mean, the first person George called, it wasn't Diego to say, what the hell? It was Derek to be like, are you serious? So, that one would burn for sure.
So do you want my hot take?
Yes.
Here's my hot take about this movie. I feel like his wife is the true reason for his downfall. And here's the reasons why, right? Because she's the one who seduced him and got Diego, Caesar's man, because remember, Caesar and Diego were like buds already.
Right.
So that caused Diego and Caesar to have George on the shit list because they're like, oh, who's this white boy who's coming in here and taking all of this stuff, right? So think about it that way. Then she's the reason that he got more addicted to coke, right? Because she was already crazy.
Right.
She's the reason he threw the party to celebrate, which forced Derek to betray George because remember, they all got locked up. So I'm sure the FBI came to Derek and was like, yo, cut a deal, betray your boy, and we'll let you go. So like, I feel like the wife was really his downfall. Penelope was his downfall. What do you think?
I think, I mean, it's very easy to compare the two relationships in his life, where you had Barbie who, was like his right hand woman, but was like helping him out. But you could kind of see there was more of a loving, caring kind of a genuine relationship. Whereas, like you said, Penelope, she comes in there and it's almost like, hey, I'm just using you for your status and your connections. And I don't really give a fuck about you. I just, I like your, I guess your status.
Right.
Yeah, I think you hit that on the head. You can definitely, correlate all those, a lot of those heartbreaks or a lot of those rock bottoms, and there's
rock bottoms exactly.
She's not too far removed from that situation.
Here's another random fact too. She is the one who even forced him to try to get back in the game, asking for like alimony, and he's like, "Yo, I just got out. Like, what do you mean?"
Yeah.
Like. So she's like pushing him. And she kept leading him into this vicious cycle.
Yeah. No,
you know what I mean?
You're 100% right on that.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
That's a good way to look. I guess I never really looked at it that way. But you're 100% right. And she was just willing to get rid of her daughter. Like, yeah, give me money and you can have her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she was definitely a toxic character for sure.
So then I guess my real question is, besides the woman relationships that he had, like we saw Barbie, the one that was pulling him up,
Hmm.
but his mom and Mirta, which was her name,
Yeah.
Penelope Cruz's character, like which one weighed him down more? I think that the mom set that precedent.
Yeah.
What do you
I,
think?
I think the mom started the fire. I think the mom,
Right.
when he came to that fork in the road, his mom's actions and behaviors and mentality, made him choose that path. I think that he did that part all on his own, with the nudge of his mom. I think he stayed his lane for the most part. He got a hiccup here or there, and then when he got to Penelope, she really poured the fire on it. I think when he got involved with her, he was in a whole different league. He jumped from AAA to the big leagues, and
Yeah.
like he even said, he kind of needed her to stay untouchable. He had a Colombian wife. He was Pablo's boy. In a lot of ways, she kept him, from the dogs that would have got him if he was doing it on his own. So I think he was already on the wrong path, but I think she definitely poured the fuel on the fire that was smoldering.
That's a great analogy. That's true. That's true. They were like a dynamic duo. Like, all right, you started off, I'll finish it off.
Yeah, definitely. They both really kind of just screwed that dude up.
Yo, random question. I never thought about this. Whatever happened to Tuna?
I was going to ask you that too. Like, homeboy just disappeared. Maybe he started doing his workout plan or something. They had to get rid of him. I don't know.
Do you think he survived? Because they said in the movie that Tuna stayed in Mexico. Like, you think he just like chilled out and like just had a chill life?
I don't know. I think Tuna might have figured it out early. He got his $1 million from the pot and got that place in Acapulco, and he's like, "I'm good. I'm staying here." That guy got it figured out.
Oh man. Before we that's hilarious. Before we pick our MVPs, I wanted to like throw you two little trivia things that I found out because I was curious about this. Not sure if you knew, but the real George Jung was released in 2014. Did you know that?
I did. I remember something popped up. I think it was one. It spurred me to watch the movie for like the 14th time. I think. I did hear that he got released.
The other thing was that, not sure if you knew this, but I wanted to say an RIP to the director. Like, I didn't know this, but the director, Ted Demme, passed away like after this movie. That he was like apparently playing basketball and he had a heart attack, and it was just crazy, man.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And then get this, when they did the autopsy, they found like traces of cocaine, which is even more nuts.
Of course. Let's do a movie about blow and then die from it. So that's terrible.
I know, man. RIP to him. RIP, man. Those are just some facts that I found. But yeah, man, let's get to it. Who is your Arturo Fuentes cigar MVP for this movie? Who would you give it to?
I think acting wise, the person that I think really grasped the role has to be Diego. I think he just played that strung out, coke addicted, sneaky bastard. He had the long game going and he executed it. And I think that, that actor did a phenomenal job with his character.
Yeah, that's true. I like that pick. It's true. It's like we were just talking about earlier, like that scene when he's just like depicting everything. It's like, whoa, like this dude went real method, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would give, and I rarely do this, but I'm going to give my MVP to Depp. Like, I think that it's one of my favorite films of his that he's portrayed. Like you just said, like, we've always seen him in these other like kind of like character roles.
Yeah.
And like this one, like really like, hey, you can see his full range. And it's the reason that like, when you mention this movie, I'm like, oh yeah, man, I'm in. Cause like, he brings you into this movie, like his portrayal, how he carries himself, and like what he really brought to that character,
Yeah, and you can't help but root for the guy. I mean, he's one of the most notorious drug dealers in America, but you find yourself rooting for him.
That's true. Anything else you want to plug in, my brother? Anything else on the movie you want to talk about?
Nah, I mean, it's if you haven't seen it, I strongly suggest it. It's an easy film to watch. It's not something that like I saw you did like Inception. You walk away. You walk away to go grab a bag of chips for Inception. You're done. So
Yeah.
it's a great movie. It's historically factual. So I mean, it's great. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
Well, Josh, thank you so much, man. Thank you for taking the time. Really appreciate you taking the time, man, just to chat with me about this movie.
No, thanks. Thanks for having me. Thanks for not telling me that it was a season finale till we hit the red light. So this was fun, and I look forward to the next one. It was a good time.
Yeah, man. Definitely will invite you back. Thank you to all the fans, and we'll catch you soon at A View to Film.